Hi everybody. I don't know about you, but when I'm trying to decide whether to buy a new piece of device, a photo or video gear, no matter how many YouTube videos you watch, there's no guarantee that the device will work seamlessly with your setup. A lot of the time you end up with frustrating issues on getting a new device to work with your old gear. This happened when I tried to pair a Panasonic Lumix G85 with a Zhiyun Crane 2 gimbal. I thought I would put together this short video showing my setup and going over some of the frustrating issues I encountered. Hopefully this will help you too. And here's my basic setup without any microphones or lights attached. It's the Crane 2 with the handle, external 7-inch monitor, and the camera. So starting at the bottom, I have the Zhiyun tripod feet, which is not only handy for putting the gimbal down, but when collapsed, I can hold it as a handle for extra balance and leverage when I need to extend the camera up or away from me. Next, I have the mini dual grip from the Crane 2. I do have the larger dual extended handlebars, but I much prefer this mini grip. It's much less cumbersome and gives me almost as much control over the gimbal. Here I have a mounting bracket. I didn't need a lot of mounting points, so I went with a simple one. Make sure you get one that fits exactly the Crane 2. I had purchased a couple other ones that were just a little too big or too small. And attached to that mounting bracket is my body strap. When shooting for longer periods, it's handy to have the option of taking some weight off your arms in between shots. Nothing really special here, just a 1/4-inch screw mount with a clip-on strap. To be honest, I've only used this clipped on maybe 25% of the time. On top of the mini grip, I use a mounting arm. This was needed to keep the monitor away from the gimbal arms and to give the cables free movement. I can adjust and pivot it if I needed to shoot down low to the ground or up higher. On top of that, I mounted the newer NW760 7-inch monitor. It's affordable and does everything I need it to right now. It gives me a number of key features including focus peaking and displays the histogram. The display output of the G85 seems to work well with it and I have had no issues. But be warned, the batteries do not last long, so keep an extra battery handy. Now keep in mind that there are different battery plate options when you buy the NW760, so get the one that matches the batteries that you want to use. I had messed up and watched one reviewer who had a certain plate, but mine came with a different one, so I had to buy another plate to attach to the back. So here's one of the biggest issues I had. The Crane 2 does not, I repeat, does not have direct focus control for the Lumix G85. At least not that I've heard or could get to work. So what I have here is a Zhiyun follow focus motor. It plugs into the gimbal on one side and the other cable provided by Zhiyun plugs into my control port on the G85. I just tuck the cable under the camera mount out of the way. The follow focus motor only mounts on the left side of the camera. I try to configure some sort of bracket attachment to get it to mount on the right side, like in the newer Weeble focus motor, but it was just a mess. Unless you want to do some serious engineering work, the mounting rail is left side only. Now why is that a problem? Because with a shorter lens like my Lumix 20mm 1.7 or the Lumix 14mm 2.5, the focus motor bumps against the grip handle of the camera and cannot reach the focus gears. Thankfully, a thick seamless focus ring works for the Lumix 20mm lens, but does not work for the 14mm because the 14 is too narrow. If you want to use the 14mm lens here, expect to rely on the camera's autofocus or manual focus with your hand. Even a thick follow focus gear ring will not be wide enough for the follow focus motor to reach. Anything wider will impede the turning of the focus ring. Even if you could mount the motor on the right side, the motor itself would bump into the camera first because of where the gear wheel is positioned on the follow focus motor. I tried every which way to get this to work on the right with the 14mm and just gave up. However, solving one problem caused another. The thick focus gear ring ended up rubbing against the gimbal plate mount itself. So what I had to do was get a quick release mount plate to lift the camera up just a little bit. Although I would recommend a quick release plate anyway, just so you can take the camera off and put it back on without having to rebalance the gimbal every time. It's a lifesaver, trust me. So with the motor and focus ring in place, you now have clean manual focus from the wheel of the gimbal. This is my favorite feature of the Crane 2 over the Crane 1, the ability to pull focus. Here I attached the HDMI output of the G85 with an ultra thin cable. I actually prefer the slimmer ribbon type cables, which are lighter and more flexible, but they only carry a 1080p signal. This ultra thin one carries the 4K output directly to the monitor. On the monitor, I used a 90-degree adapter so the cable is out of the way and puts less pressure on the plug. So as you can see, I can focus using the monitor and spinning the focus wheel. Now we come to the issue of controlling the G85 from the gimbal controls on the handle of the Crane 2. First, you do not have control over aperture or shutter speed through the gimbal controls. Not that I've been able to figure out anyway. But, and it's a big but, you can activate start, stop, and shutter from the gimbal through the record button on the handle. So I would usually set the aperture and shutter on the camera before the shot, and then use the record button on the gimbal itself, as well as the focus wheel to pull focus. For a camera that's not listed as, quote, compatible by Zhiyun in its materials, that makes this fairly functional to me. So I hope this video has helped anyone think of using the Lumix G85 with the Crane 2. I've enjoyed using this setup, and once I got past the frustrating problems I explained here, it's been working pretty well. I've actually ordered the Weebill S for filming while traveling, so I'm hoping the Weebill has the same functionality with the G85. Otherwise, I would just go back and stick with this setup for the Crane 2. Thanks for watching.